Hello everyone, welcome to Kitty's Kitchen. Today we're going to make chicharron bread, or bread out of ground pork rinds. I bet you didn't know you could make bread out of pork rinds, but you can. So anyways, I wanted to show you what we'll be making first. So here we have the plain one, here we have one with cabbage, and here we have a cheesy one. Now they're more like flatbreads. I developed this recipe at the request of a friend. Now there are a lot of keto bread recipes, and they're very good. They usually have, though, nut flours and psyllium fiber. So one of my friends can't tolerate either of them. I got this idea, and I think it actually is pretty tasty. So you'll have to let me know what you think. They all start with the same basic recipe. Now I have all three of them set up, and I'm going to mix them all together at the same time, and there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is the crushed chicharrons need a minute to absorb the egg a little bit. Like they don't need like 5 or 10 minutes, but they do need a minute. So I'll get started with the plain one first. I've got them all marked so I don't forget what I'm doing. So here's the plain one, and I'm going to add to that 1 beaten egg, and I always use extra large eggs. So that's number 1. I'm going to use my spatula because I hate to waste that. So there's number 1, minus the sticky note. Which one is this? Okay, this is the cabbage one. How about I just put it there? That way I don't forget what I'm doing. Okay, this is the cabbage one, and this is another extra large beaten egg. Put that in there. Okay. And number 3 will be the one with cheese. Okay, I know. How about that? 1, 2, 3 sticky notes. Okay, and if I forget now, I have no excuse. Okay, so there we are. The 3rd egg. So what I'm going to do, now of course I'm just making one flatbread at a time. But if you want to make a bigger batch, just scale it up. Oh, there's my little tag. Oh, we can live without it. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to mix the egg with the ground chicharron. And you can, at some stores you can buy ground chicharrons or pork rinds, but if you can't, just put them in your food processor. It's actually a little bit of work to grind your own, but I think it's good. They're good to have on hand, especially if you like this bread. So there's number 1. I'm going to stir number 2 now too. Well, actually, number 2, stir that in. I'm just going to show you. Okay. See, it's a little bit liquidy looking. Give it just a minute and all of that will be absorbed, so the texture will change. You can see it changing already. Okay, so we'll let number 1 just sit while we do the rest of them. Number 2. Number 3. Number 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Back to number 1. Give that another stir. Number 2. Oh, and before I almost forgot, each of them gets a teaspoon of avocado oil. You can use olive oil too, or bacon fat, whatever oil or fat you want to use. 1, 2, 3. Okay, get this out of the way. Okay, we'll stir that in as well. Again, I'll show you. See how this one is thickening up. Okay. Here's the second one. It's also starting to thicken up like that. See, and you'll see that it's kind of sticky looking like that. That's what you want. So you see, in real time, it only takes a minute or 2. Okay, so number 1 is the plain one. And I haven't added any salt. There we go. See how, oops, squeaking my fork again. Sorry about that. See how it's tightened up? It doesn't look that appetizing now, but it will turn into a nice flatbread. So the second one, chicharrons usually have salt, So, but if you like them a bit saltier, you'll know when you make them whether you want more salt or not. But I find that it's enough salt. So here's the second one, which is with cabbage. I have half a cup of cabbage here. I'm going to mix that in to this amount. Okay, this takes a bit of, once it starts to firm up like that, it takes a bit of mixing, which is fine. And it doesn't look like a bread batter like you would want it to, but don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Okay, so actually it kind of looks, it's like a paste, like almost like a peanut butter paste. That's what you want. So it looks a little bit too dense, but it's not. It's actually fine. Okay, that's the one with cabbage. Okay, and the third one, I'm going to get rid of my stickies because now they're out of order. Third is with cheese, and I'm just using shredded mozzarella because shredded mozzarella is neutral. But if you want a cheesier flavor, use all cheddar too if you like, or Tex-Mex, whatever you like if you like it cheesier. These are actually quite sturdy. That's another thing I discovered about them. They don't fall apart. They're pretty sturdy. So this is the cheesy one. That one's all ready to go. So in this time that we've been talking, things have firmed up the way I told you they would. So there's the one with cheese. There's the one with cabbage. There's the empty bowls out of the way. Here's the plain one. Okay, I recommend that you start these with no heat. We don't need any oil in the pan. And if you have a good non-stick pan, and if you don't, you can use a bit of oil. But I find that they don't need any oil. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this fork, and this is the first one. So we're just going to put it into the pan like that. Now this doesn't look like it's enough, but it will fill. This is a 6-inch pan, so the bottom is like roughly 5.5 inches. So we're just going to, and this is why I recommend you do it in a cold pan. Once you become an expert at this, you can do it in a hot pan, but for the cold pan, you can do it this way while you're learning. Okay, so that's not quite to the edges, but I'm going to turn the pan on now, and I'm going to turn it on a high heat. These are fairly foolproof. They do cook up very quickly. So as the pan starts to heat too, you can make them a little bit bigger. Now I have made these thicker, but I'll say that for another video because there's a little bit of a knack to make them thicker so that they're more like a muffin or a crumpet, and then you can cut them in half. But there's a bit of fooling around to do that, so I'll just show you. This is the most basic recipe. This is how it looks when you start out. Okay, see, it looks very liquidy, almost like it'll never firm up. That's fine. That's fine. That's how it looks. So as it starts to cook, it'll start to dry, and it'll start to look actually like a pancake, a flour pancake. It'll start to dry, and there'll be little bubbles. You can hear it sizzling a little bit. And I'm just going to rotate my pan a bit because my element doesn't seem to heat all that evenly anymore. So as we watch this, I'm just going to show you in a minute too how it should look again. Okay, now I'm going to show that. So you'll see that it looks a little bit dry there, and you can see the little bubbles, and it's still shiny here, but this is about when we're going to check it to see if it's dry on the bottom. Now I'm going to go on this side. Oh, there we go. See? There we go. Don't you just love it when you can do that? Okay. Anyways, so now these don't get very brown. Okay, I'll show you that color there. The very light brown like that is enough. You can actually really quickly overcook these. And I don't know if the solution might be to add more oil, but for now, just there, it's not slipping yet, so it's not quite ready. Give it another minute. Okay. Now I'm going to touch this with my finger. If you're not confident doing this, don't do it. But that's how quickly they cook up. Okay, so this one is done. I'm just going to flip it over to show you. Again, there we go. That's what it should look like. That's as brown as you want it. One with the cabbage is actually my favorite. It's less bread-like, but I like it better. I think it's tastier. So it's almost there. So at this point, I'm going to put it on the heat because then it'll melt slightly, or cook slightly, not melt. And I can put it into the shape that I want. And again, if the shape isn't perfect, who cares? It's your house. Do what you want. If you want, square ones. Actually, the last one I'll make it square, just for fun. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, and in this short time, because my pan was already a bit warm and the element was still on, it's already cooking up really well. See, there we go. So they don't really stick. Okay, Chicharron bread number 3. This is the one with the cheese. Now I just happen to have one of these pans, which I love. It's just something different. You don't have to have a square pan like this. You could still make this one round. In fact, if you make the cheese ones round, they're pizza size. And that's one of the things that they're good for, is pizza, because they're quite sturdy. But I'm going to make this one square because I'm going to make a grilled ham and Swiss out of this flatbread. So anyways, we're going to do this just for fun. Here we go. You do the same thing. This is actually one of those omelet pans for making rolled omelets. Okay, that roughly a square. All right, there we go. Square enough. Okay, it's starting to sizzle. Like I said, I have this on high heat. You might want to turn this down, but I'm going to live dangerously and cook it on high heat. This one's a bit trickier because the cheese is melting, so it seems gooier than it is. So the bottom will actually be set, but the sides will be a bit gooey. So I'm going to try another technique. See, there we go. That, if I hadn't fooled around with that side, it would have gone like this. But anyways, here we are. I'm doing it this way because I know I'll have a disaster. Okay. Do what you have to do to flip it over, even if you have to do it that roundabout way that I did. Okay. This one does get browner because it has the cheese. So we're just going to give this a minute. Alright, this one's done. Okay, so that's what the bottom looks like. That's brown enough. Plus I'm going to cook it again when I make the sandwich. Okay, let's flip it again here. Okay, I've turned my heat off. I'm just going to set these aside. Put this one here. Thank you for watching Kitty's Kitchen.